Dude, how the f do you do a metalcore chorus?
That was my brother. And just like my brother, I'm pretty sure there's a lot of you guys out there that you want to be writing your choruses, your metalcore, non-metalcore, whatever, and you don't really know where to start. Now, I'm not saying that this is the ultimate guide or the formula to go on and creating a chorus or writing a piece of music. If you already have one that works for you, that's absolutely fine. This is just for those people that want to start doing it but don't really know where to start. So I'm gonna guide you through 5 steps, 6 steps, and then off you go. Now, step number 1, we need to find a basic progression. And it doesn't really matter if it's like poppy as fuck, it doesn't matter, okay? We're aiming for metalcore, and for metalcore we want something catchy. Choose a progression that you like. Here are a few examples. Now, as you guys could see, I started with very simple power chord progressions. Very simple, very basic. Find a chord progression that resonates with you, and don't be too disheartened if you wrote 10 songs on top of the same chord progression. Most bands, or a lot of bands, do this. A lot of bands repeat and continuously make music on top of the same old chord progressions. Iron Maiden, for example, one of the greatest heavy metal bands of all time with some of the biggest hits of all time, they continuously released music using I think it was a 1-6-7 type of progression. Now, don't be scared of like repeating choruses using the same progression. The idea here is that you find one that you really identify with, one that really inspires you. Those were a few examples, but you know, the possibilities are endless. Okay, now for step number 2, we're gonna pick up one of these progressions and we're gonna start introducing different rhythms to it. Okay, so we already have the progression, right? So we already have the... So what we wanna do here is we wanna vary a little bit more. We can start with just some simple palm muting, okay? So rather than going... we can go. Now, to spice things up a little bit, we might also want to add some triplets. We can even think about a turnaround, okay, which is something very used in blues. Putting it all together, it would sound something like this. Okay, now that we have the basic progression and we have a little bit of rhythm, we have a rhythm section going with it, to make it even spicier by adding an extra chili onto it, we add some extra notes. So for this particular example, I've added this D7 chord in here, and whatever this is, just sounds good to me, so I think it's some B flat major 7, I guess. The purists can correct me in the comment section below. My music theory isn't really top-notch, but anyway. And it sounds like this. of these things don't make any sense unless if we have a really, really nice melody. So how do we come up with this melody line? You could start the singing process even before we started step one. I mean, your vocal melody could be step 0. You could be having a shower, taking a shit, whatever, and some idea came to your head and you picked up your phone and you recorded it into your phone. I mean, it happened to me loads of times. I'm going in the bus and something comes onto my head and I just pick up the phone and go, you know, and people like kind of look at you as if you're completely insane. One thing that you can do to come up with a melody is you can just whistle. Another way you could do this is exactly the same way. You play this in the background, you let it rip, okay? And then you pick up the guitar and you try noodling some stuff around. Now, make it concise and focus on finding like a kind of like a hooky thing to it, okay? Something that, you know, will latch on to your brain. It's not a solo, okay? Don't like shred or rip something on top of, I mean, you can if you want. Okay, now the third method is my favorite one, and it's the one that I use. I like to call this method the Portuguese karaoke, okay? When a Portuguese is trying to sing an English song and he does not know how the words go, this is exactly how they will be singing it. So I'm breaking the mirrors, la 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 la, calling to my... Did you guys see that? So amongst that awfully fucking bunch of shit that I just sang on top, there was breaking the mirrors. And that already kind of like gives me the idea for a nice hook. So just by making something as silly as that and probably as cringy as fuck, you can already like start forming an idea for that particular chorus.
Every time I hear you call my name, I walk towards the dark. Still I see myself far from sight. So I'm breaking the mirrors. Every time I hear you call my name, I walk towards the dark. Still I see myself far from sight. So I'm breaking the mirrors.
Okay, step number 5, adding drums and bass to your song. First of all, I'm not a drummer and I'm not a bass player, but if you're writing the song, especially if you're writing it on your own, sometimes it helps if you have an idea about how the drums are gonna play out. Actually gives you a really big idea. We spoke in step 2 when you say play with rhythms, and we play with down picking, we play with triplets and all of that. And that's kind of like the percussive sound already that you have in the guitar. The very first string, your paddling string, you can use it to create a pattern or to create, you know, a rhythm. And then what you have to do is you have to, in your head, imagine how the snare and the kick would play with those rhythms. Another thing that I really like to do to enrich the song, it's not just creating vocal harmonies or vocal backing tracks, but it is creating an additional melody to the main melody.
Yeah, gang bands are always better.
And this, like I said before, this was brilliantly done by Alice in Chains. They do this a lot. Jerry Cantrell and Lane Stanley's vocals really complement each other. And I think in some cases, Jerry Cantrell's vocals, they're more than a backing track. They're almost like a second lead, like a second person telling the story. And I love to do that as well.
I can hear the violence they cry. Somehow I've gotta get this lie and find that I'm no longer defined by choice, no doubt.
And that's it, guys. I really hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you found this informative. Also know that this is not, a unique formula. If you find something else that works for you, by all means go with that. But if you don't know where to start, As usual, if you like this information, make sure you subscribe, make sure you share, like, notifications, blah, 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 all that, all that kind of stuff, all right? And I'll see you guys soon.
Why are we speaking in English if you're both Portuguese?
Because this might end up on YouTube someday.